What's up, guys? If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Also, please smash that like button on the video and enjoy the show.
Earl Rose was that one person in that horrible moment that said, this is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
This is wrong. And what happens? Hand goes to the weapon, pushes him against the wall. Said, this is what it's going to be. And he even tells them that this is in violation of Texas state statute.
Right.
Tells them that, makes them aware of it. And he was well aware of the law. He knew that it was wrong. And when they walked out of those doors with the president's body at that moment in time, you know, I often think about, you know, as not often, but as I've been, you know, kind of digging into all of this, you know, I think about Dr. Rose watching them kind of vanish with the president's body, thinking, what the hell's going to happen? Mm-hmm. Well, let me tell you what happened. Because after the president's body left, Rose went and did the autopsy on Officer Tibbetts. And then...
Who Oswald allegedly killed.
Yes. Then he did the autopsy on Lee Harvey Oswald. Then he did the autopsy on Jack Ruby.
Oh. Wait, well, Ruby would have been years later, right? Like 4 years later, something like that?
Yeah. He was still incarcerated there. He died of the big C.
Right. Convenient.
Let me bring this all around also, and this is a very interesting point, I think. Some people may be interested in this. I don't know. Let's jump forward to 1968. 2 people died in 68.
RFK, MLK.
Yeah. Where did RFK die? Where was he shot?
California. He was given a speech after winning the primary, right?
At the Ambassador. That's L.A. County.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you don't know who this person is, I recommend you look him up. He's one of the people that I think I reflect back. I met him 2 times, and he was one of the most genuinely kind people I've met that was a forensic pathologist.
You talked about this guy on the last podcast. Talk about this.
Yeah. Dr. Tom Noguchi.
Yep.
And he wrote a couple of books. He wrote one called Coroner at Large, I think is the name of it. And if you're just interested in kind of a fun read, it kind of gives you an idea about the world that he inhabited. I mean, he did the autopsies from Marilyn Monroe to
Albert Decker, Sharon Tate, Inger Stevens, Janis Joplin, Gia Scala, David Jansen, William Holden, and John Belushi. That's a Michael Bodden type resume right there.
Yeah, he's really something. William Holden was always interesting to me. He was a decomp. People don't realize that. He was found decomposing in his home.
Wow.
But genuinely, just a sweet man. I mean, he truly was.
He's still kicking.
Yeah, he is. But he was a sweet man when I met him. He didn't have to be kind to me, but he was. And the thing about
how old is he? Like 100? Oh, 96? Man, good for him.
Dr. Noguchi, he did the autopsy, as you can see there, on Senator Kennedy. When Senator Kennedy was assassinated.
His wound was in the chest, right?
Yeah,
Wounds.
and he was. Yeah, there were 2. One was in the chest. That was the fatal wound. The other one was a flyer. I can't remember where, but it was. I think it was in a non-lethal region. This is what Tom Noguchi did. The Kennedy family didn't want an autopsy, or if they were going to get one, it was only going to be like a partial one.
For RFK?
Yeah.
They didn't learn their lesson?
I don't know if they did, but guess who did? He did. So what Dr. Noguchi did, he said, all right, boys, we're going to saddle up and we're going to do this autopsy out here.
He does not have a Southern Texas accent. Come
no,
on.
He didn't. He didn't.
I was going to say.
I'm just kind of he's one of my heroes, so just give me a second, all right?
I was like biting my tongue, don't do a racist impression.
No, I'm not doing a racist impression.
I'm talking about me.
Dr. Noguchi said, not only are we going to do an autopsy, but this is how we're going to do it. It's going to be the most thorough autopsy that has ever been done. He invited forensic pathologists from AFIP. They came out to L.A. Guess who was in the crowd?
Not Curtis LeMay. All right.
I have no idea.
You were going to hurt me if you said that.
No. Dr. Fink.
Ah.
The wound ballistics guy that had shown up, I'm not going to say late, to...
They just got started without him.
And took the brain out before he got there.
Yeah.
He was invited. He was one of the people there, not to mention he had other staff pathologists, forensic pathologists, not tumor pathologists, that were present for the autopsy. And when I say that they went from stem to stern, they did. They covered every single possibility, because the one thing that I think that Tom Noguchi learned from this, he gained a lot of wisdom, because even though there were not records that had been released, he was sensitive to the fact that he knew what a firestorm had been created, particularly within our community, within the forensic community. Because, look, we might not have had the records, but people talk. And you go to meetings and you hear everything that happened. And, it's a very small community. People knew Earl Rose. I'm sure that Dr. Noguchi did. He'd run across his path at some point in time, I'm sure. He was not going to allow this to happen. And granted, God bless RFK, he was not the president of the United States, but his brother had just been assassinated 5 years earlier. He was part of the Kennedy family, obviously, goes without saying, very high profile. There was a strong possibility he could have been the next president of the United States.
He was going to be.
And Tom Noguchi had an awareness of that. He knew how much damage had been done at that point in time. I'm not going to say that by virtue of what Tom Noguchi did relative to RFK, that all of a sudden everything is rosy, moving forward in the medical legal community. But I think that it established kind of how things would operate moving forward in the event that anything else happened like this. Of course, Justice Scalia, notwithstanding, being pronounced over the phone. But, you think about this. He set the tenor and tempo of what we could expect in the future. You never say what is, that it'll never happen. Even my grandma used to tell me that, because you don't want to tempt fate or tempt God. And I'm not saying that other horrible things couldn't happen in the future where things are screwed up this bad. But he set a standard by taking those simple steps in advance. And he had to learn, unfortunately, through the assassination of a president.
That's, yeah. I mean, that's like, I don't care how long you've done something, or like it's like coming to work every day. When you're dealing with life and death, in this case, the death side of it, of something that high profile, I mean, to me, it feels like NBA Finals Game 7, 1 minute left and you're down 2 points, like that kind of pressure. Yeah,
and one more thing here about the situation he was in, okay? Him being Dr. Noguchi. I think that people think that it's disrespectful to say, he's the coroner to the stars. They've said that before. That's not something Dr. Noguchi would say. Right. But he was set up for that moment in time, I think, because he had done autopsies on Marilyn Monroe and all these other people, these principals that were involved in this, within that sphere out there in Hollywood. And those are just a few of the people that he actually did autopsies on. You can imagine even the peripheral people that are out there during that period of time that are associated with that industry. He was, out of all the pathologists in America at that point in time, there was nobody better equipped to be used to the white-hot spotlight of the intensity of the media, I think. And it didn't matter to him. One of the things, and I actually read this in his book, and I applied this when I was a death investigator. Dr. Noguchi actually had a principle. I may have mentioned this previously, but it bears repeating. He said that as humans, it's very easy for us when we go onto a scene with the presence of a decedent in the room to focus on the decedent. And this is a very Eastern way of thinking about things, but he said that when he would walk into a room, say for instance in a room where there is a deceased body, and think about what he walked into at the Tate LaBianca homicides. He was present at Sharon Tate's homicide.
It's the Manson murders for people out there who don't know that, but pretty common knowledge.
Dr. Noguchi said that he would look up. He would look up at the ceiling before he ever focused on the body, because he didn't want to be distracted by the body. He wanted to look at all of the peripheral first and take all of that in before he finally allowed his gaze to fall upon the body. And he's not distracted, because it's real easy, I think, to get tunnel vision. I think there's a lesson that can be taken away relative to President Kennedy's assassination in that little nugget there too. Obviously you have this destroyed body of a president there before you, and in those circumstances, we spent, I think, they spent so much time focused on trying to save him in the beginning, and trying to remove him from that environment for whatever reason, to get him back to allowing decisions to be made outside of the medical legal realm about what kind of dissection was going to be done, as to what was going to happen to the evidence, without taking in the full picture. And the body is the concentric part of everything, that everything else, the body is merely the hub. We have all of these other things that we have to consider that kind of extend out from that hub. I think for me, this is kind of the zen of death investigation. When you look at this and you try to view everything very broadly, and then you focus in on that big piece of evidence, and so many times, so many things are lost. Back then, I think that they lost sight of things. They lost sight of everything else that was going on around them, and unfortunately, we've suffered ever since then.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. Please hit that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.